went to Gaza by boat in 2008, and we actually got through, although we were surrounded at one point by Israeli gunships, and we really thought that our time was up. Our communications were severed, our mobile phones went down, there we were in international waters, unable to make any Mayday calls, any phone calls, any satellite telephone calls. We were totally out there, we felt, on our own, and it was pitch black, and we were waiting for what was going to happen next. For some bizarre reason, they disappeared. I don't know why. I'm eternally grateful, having seen what happened a couple of years later with the Mavi Marmara, but they just disappeared, and we were able to get into Gaza, and tens and tens of thousands of people of Gaza came out to greet us. And I was told that, you know, the people of Gaza have great hospitality, and but even so, the welcome seemed quite amazing until I learned that the siege of Gaza by sea hadn't been going on for 2 or 3 years. It had been going on for decades, and we were the first boat in more than 40 years to sail into Gaza. And it's quite extraordinary when you think about it, because we're talking about the Mediterranean. Just a few hundred miles away, there are Westerners sailing, fishing, there are Greek fishermen and Turkish fishermen, all sorts of nationalities fishing the Mediterranean, and can come and go with the greatest of ease. You know, people can hire yachts and go island hopping around the Mediterranean. And yet, Gaza is off limits to everybody going there, and the fishermen, if they go beyond their, well, I was going to say their boundaries are about 14, 15 miles, but if they go more than a mile, 2 miles from the shore, they're likely to be targeted, they're likely to be shot at by the Israeli Navy, which is part of this huge war machine, the largest, fourth largest army in the world, and an army which has absolutely no compunction at all about using its weapons on women and children. And so the sailing into Gaza was an amazing thing to do. Several other boats succeeded after that, and then there was talk about setting up a permanent line of a route from Cyprus to Gaza, and then, of course, this all got too much for the Israelis, and they committed that heinous crime when they shot dead 9 peace activists on board the Mavi Marmara, which was part of a flotilla going to Gaza. There's another flotilla planned in a few weeks' time, and I really salute each and every person who is going on board, because they are going to risk their lives. And there are many different countries taking part in that flotilla. But it's important that we don't just see the siege of Gaza as something that's by land, and now with the Arab Spring, it looks as though the border is lifting and people are able to move freely. That isn't the case, but certainly the sea has been totally closed off to the people of Gaza, as I say, for more than 40 years. And it is vital that we try, when we lift the siege of Gaza, that we not only do it by land, but we do it by sea as well. And some of us are involved in a plan. It's early days yet, but we want to break the siege of Gaza by air. And that in itself will be quite a challenge, but these are just some of the different things that we're trying to do to highlight how ridiculous this and brutal this siege is. But people think, oh, it's the Middle East, it's far away. We're talking about the Mediterranean. Gaza is on the Mediterranean, and it is not some distant country that's so far away that it's much, much closer than we imagine. I also went to Gaza on the Viva Palestina convoy, and that's where I first met Jodie McIntyre during a hellish battle in Al Arish between the Egyptian police and members of the convoy. Hopefully those days will have gone, and I know that there's another convoy going to Gaza, I think on the 18th of this month, and of course we have the peace cycle to Gaza, which is going to have its own challenges because of the revolutions and amazing acts of defiance and people power that have been shown at the moment in Syria is one of the routes that, but I'm sure Margaret will explain more about that later. But what we're seeing across the Middle East at the moment are amazing acts of resistance, amazing acts of defiance. And these aren't disciplined armies of people, they're like you and I, and they have got to such a... Is that telling me to... All right, well, somebody's mobile's going off. Thank you. And that is, these are ordinary people like you and I who finally snap and have had enough. But what is amazing about the Arab Spring is that these people who are standing up, who are like you and I, who have just had enough, are turning into a new superpower, and they're showing stuff the politicians. The politicians have done nothing for us over the years. Here are ordinary people who are seizing the initiative, who can make a change, who will make a change. And it started, as we know, in Tunisia, it went on in Egypt, it's continuing in Libya and Syria and Yemen and Bahrain. It will spread, and people power, I believe, is the way forward. We can make a change for the people of Palestine, not the politicians. I mean, Tony Blair was on TV the other day talking about peace in the Middle East. What is the point of Tony Blair? Does anybody know? Because that man has done absolutely nothing for the Palestinians, and neither of any other peace envoys who've gone out to the Middle East. They all make interesting sound bites, but at the end of the day, it amounts to absolutely nothing. The people who will change the political landscape of the Middle East, the people who will bring about the end of the Rafah border, the end of the Gaza siege by air and sea, are people like us in this room today who care enough, who want it to happen, who will make it happen, who will put their lives on the line to see that it will happen. And this is, there is no room for people like Tony Blair in this equation. Let's not forget, he stood up next to Hosni Mubarak a few days before he was finally kicked out of office, and he